Hari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gaura Hari Bol. श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की, जगत गुरु श्रीला प्रभुपाद की. So first of all, a very happy Diwali to all of you. And so Diwali is the festival of lights, and it's a festival of all auspiciousness. So in this festival, we remove the ignorance from our hearts. We invite the auspicious presence of the Lord in our hearts. So today we'll discuss a verse from the Bhagavad Gita to understand more about the Lord and to invite the auspicious presence of the Lord in our heart, so that we can bring in all auspiciousness on this occasion of Diwali. So I'll just recite the verse and you can repeat after me. Is it visible to everyone? Yeah. Kim no rajena Govinda, Kim bhoge jivitena va, Yesham arthe kangshitam no, Rajyam bhoga sukhani cha, Ta ime vastita yuddhe, Pranam styaktva dhanani cha, Acharya pitra putras, Tathaiva cha pitamaha, Matula shwasura potraha, Shala sambhanidinastatha, Etan hantum ichhami, Nato api madhusudana, Api trailokya rajasya, Hetu kim na numahi krite, निहत्य धार्तराष्ट्रान्नः का प्रीतिः स्यात् जनार्दनः. So we'll just read the meaning. Can anyone read the meaning from the screen?
Govinda, what I will to use, I will to say a kingdom, happiness or even life itself, when all goes for him. If we reject them or arrived
on this battlefield, O Madhusudana, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, father-in-law, grandson, brother-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them? Even though they might otherwise kill me. O maintainer of all living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will be derived from the killing of Vishnu of Dhritarashtra?
Okay, I'll just read the purport. Arjuna has addressed Lord Krishna as Govinda because Krishna is the object of all pleasures for cows in the senses. By using this significant word, Arjuna indicates that Krishna should understand what will satisfy Arjuna's senses. But Govinda is not meant for satisfying our senses. If we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, however, then automatically our senses are satisfied. Materially, everyone wants to satisfy his senses, and he wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entity as much as they deserve, but not to the extent that they may covet. But when one takes the opposite way, namely when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. Arjuna's deep affection for the community and family members is exhibited here, partly due to his natural compassion for them. He is therefore not prepared to fight. Everyone wants to show his opulence to friends and relatives, but Arjuna fears that all his relatives and friends will be killed on the battlefield, and he will be unable to share his opulence after victory. This is a typical calculation of material life. The transcendental life, however, is different. Since a devotee wants to satisfy the desires of the Lord, he can, Lord willing, accept all kinds of opulences for the service of the Lord. And if the Lord is not willing, he should not accept a farthing. Arjuna did not want to kill his relatives, and if there were any need to kill them, he desired that Krishna kill them personally. At this point, he did not know that Krishna had already killed them before their coming into the battlefield, and that he was only to become an instrument for Krishna. This fact is disclosed in the following chapters. As a natural devotee of the Lord, Arjuna did not like to retaliate against his miscreant cousins and brothers, but it was the Lord's plan that they should all be killed. The devotee of the Lord does not retaliate against the wrongdoer, but the Lord does not tolerate any mischief done to the devotees. The Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore, the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them. Hare Krishna. So I'll just give a brief background of what is happening around here. What is the background behind this verse? So here we see in the Mahabharata war, the background is, the scene is that Kaurava's army, they are standing on one side of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. In the Pandavas, they are standing on the opposite side. And both the armies are ready to fight. So here we see, in the initial verses we see of the Bhagavad Gita, how Sanjay is narrating this pastime to Dhritarashtra. Sanjay is able to see what is happening in the battlefield by the mercy of Vyasadeva, and he is the one who is narrating what all is happening in the battlefield to Dhritarashtra. And this is a discussion going on between Arjuna and Krishna. Now in the initial verses we saw how the diplomacy of Duryodhana was there. In the initial verses, Duryodhana was glorifying his army, increasing the enthusiasm of his army by using different techniques, by using different diplomatical methods. First he described about the armies of the Pandavas, how they were well protected by Arjuna, Bhima, and others. And then he very tactfully described his own army. And then he made a statement. In the initial verses, he said that Bhima is not even a fig in comparison to Bhishma. And this was a fact well known to all. So everyone knew that in comparison to the warriors, great warriors like Dronacharya and Bhishma, the Pandavas were not even a fig. And so this is how tactfully Duryodhan tries to increase the strength of his, try to increase the enthusiasm of his armies. Now after this, the conch shells from both the parties, the Kauravas blew their own conch shells and the Pandavas also blew their conch shells. Here another interesting fact was written that when the Kauravas blew their conch shells, all the different warriors blew their conch shells, the Pandavas were not affected, they were not concerned. But on the other hand, when the Pandavas blew the conch shell, when Krishna blew his conch shell, Panchajanya, when Arjuna blew his conch shell, Devdatta, the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra were shattered. They were fearful. So here in the purport in the Bhagavad Gita, we see the reason is described very nicely, that because the Kauravas, they had taken shelter of their own strength, they had taken the shelter of Bhishma, they had taken the shelter of Dronacharya, all the warriors. But still they were fearful because they had not taken the shelter of the Supreme Lord. Whereas the Pandavas, because they had taken the shelter of the Supreme Lord, because they had taken the shelter of Krishna, and they had full faith in the protection of Krishna. So they were not affected. They were not affected by the strength of the army of the Kauravas. They were not affected by the huge warriors that were standing opposite to them. And they were fearless. So this is a very important understanding we learned in the initial verses, how one person can become fearless. People generally become fearful due to many different aspects, many different problems come in life. But they forgot this main aspect, that is, if we want to become fearless in life, then we should always take the shelter of Krishna. When we should always take the shelter of Supreme Lord. And that can be taken in different ways. Like one of the ways is chanting the names of the Lord, reading the Bhagavad Gita, celebrating the festivals like today, auspicious Diwali, celebrating the Lord, like decorating our houses nicely. So in all these ways, one can take shelter of the Lord and then he can have faith in the Lord that the Lord will give him full protection. So after this, we see one more important aspect, that Arjuna asked Krishna to move his chariot in the middle of the battlefield. So this is after the conch shells was blown from both the sides. Arjuna says that I want to see who is on the opposite side. So he asked Krishna to move the chariot in the middle of the battlefield. And then something surprising happened. And that is where these verses come into place. So Arjuna, who was so determined to fight initially, who had come to the battlefield, all of them had come to the battlefield to fight, he starts giving reason for not fighting. He starts giving different reasons, different arguments that why should he not fight. So in the verses 28 to 30, we see this thing, that first argument he gives regarding his relatives, that these are my relatives, how can I kill them? He was overcome with a compassion, he was overcome with emotions regarding his relatives, and he did not want to fight with them. Now Krishna was surprised that he had come to the battlefield, he had come to fight, and now he is giving such an argument. And we see in the verses it's clearly described that Arjuna's hands began trembling. Arjuna's hands were trembling, the bow was falling down from his hand, and he was fearful. Now someone may ask, like, we just told that devotee of a Lord is never fearful. So why was Arjuna fearful? Arjuna was not fearful because of his own death, because of worry that these people might kill him. He was fearful because he had compassion for these people. So sometimes people try to judge, sometimes people try to bring these great warriors onto their own level. They think, okay, just like we are in some argument with someone and some people surround us. So we become fearful. Our hands also start trembling. So similar is the case with Arjuna. Arjuna is just like us. But that is not the actual case. Arjuna was fearful because he was full of compassion for his relatives, for his brothers, and so he did not want to fight with them. After that, we see in the 31st verse, Arjuna says that I don't want this kingdom, I don't want this happiness, I don't want everything. And in these verses, he describes why. So here he mentions in the first line, Kim no Rajyena Govinda. He says, what is the use of this Rajya, or what is the use of this kingdom? Kim Bhoger, what is the use of enjoyment? Jivitena va, what is the use of life itself? So here we see different levels on which Arjuna is moving. First he says like, what is the use of this kingdom, O Krishna, O Govinda? Then he says, what is the use of happiness? And then at last he says, what is the use of living altogether? So he is giving different arguments here. He is saying, what is the use of all this if for the purpose for which we are fighting, all those relatives are standing in front of us? So what is the use if even if we win over them, we get all our kingdom? What good will we avail of by this? Who will we enjoy this with? So now Krishna may say that why you are saying all this, why you are saying what is the use of this? So Arjuna says that all the people I want to fight for, all my relatives, all my friends, they are just standing on the opposite side of the battlefield. Then what good it will be do? What good it will be done if I start fighting, if I kill all these people, or if I fight with all these people? So he says that they, even though they are standing to fight with me, they are standing to give up their wealth, they are standing to give up their plant life in the battle, but I don't want to fight. Now who are these people who are standing? So we just saw in the verses, the people, different people who are standing were the acharyas, the teachers, like Dronacharya. Then there were the Pitra, the contemporary of his fathers, the Putra, the sons, Pitamaha, the grandfather, Matula, maternal uncles, Swashura, fathers-in-law, Potra, grandsons, Shwala, brothers-in-law, Sambandina, relatives. And he says, Na hantum ichchami. I do not wish to kill them, O Krishna. Even though they might kill me in the battlefield, I do not wish to kill them. So here we see one very important aspect of a devotee. The devotee never retaliates against any wrong done to him. So much we see in the Mahabharata, we have all read how these Pandavas were tortured by these Kauravas, how they were disturbed. At all times they were affected, they were so much tribulated by the Kauravas. But yet his mood was like, I don't want to fight with them. But then Krishna does not tolerate any wrongdoing that is done against his devotee. Even the devotee may sometimes forgive the offenders, but Krishna always takes revenge. So this very important lesson for us, that we should never offend a devotee. The devotee might seemingly forgive us, devotee might say, I do not care, but Krishna always makes sure that the person is punished. One who blasphemes a devotee, Krishna makes sure that he is punished. And this is why Krishna makes sure that this war happens and that Arjuna takes the role. We'll see in the later verses. But then here we see other reasons, like Arjuna addresses Krishna as Govinda. So here also Prabhupada beautifully explains in the purport why Krishna is addressed as Govinda. So Go means cow and Go also means senses. And Vinda is one who gives pleasure to the senses, one who gives pleasure to cows. So here Arjuna addresses Krishna as Govinda. He says, Kim no Rajyena Govinda. Because he says that you are the one who gives pleasure to senses, you are the one who gives pleasure to cows. So you should give pleasure to my senses, you should do according to my will. Why should I act according to your will, or why should I fight? And this in the purport we see very important line that was given is, materially everyone wants to satisfy his senses. And he wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much as they deserve, but not to the extent that they may covet. So this is a very interesting point to understand and analyze. That sometimes, like when we go in front of the Lord, we have a huge list. That I want this, I want this, I want that. And we try to be over smart. That I'll offer you 3 incense, please give me that. I'll break coconuts in front of you, please give me this. And we generally go to the Lord with these desires. And when these desires are not fulfilled, when something is not fulfilled, then people start saying, oh, God does not exist. All this is mythology. This does not work. And when we ask these people, why do you say so? So they will say, I asked for something and Lord did not fulfill. So here we see that implicitly everyone thinks like that Lord is the order supplier. That we ask something from the Lord and Lord should fulfill. But actually we understand that is not the case. This happens because we do not know what is our relationship. What is our level and what is the level of the Lord. The Lord is the supreme enjoyer and we are actually his servants. We are meant to serve him, not to order him. He is not like a maid servant that we give him order, we say that do this and he will do this. He is actually the order supplier. He is actually the supreme master. And we are meant so that we can serve, we can do things for his pleasure. And when we do that, another thing which Prabhupada writes in this purport, that when we satisfy the senses of Krishna, when we instead of satisfying our own senses, when we satisfy his senses, when we do things for his pleasure like chanting the names of the Lord, reading the Bhagavad Gita, then automatically our senses will be satisfied. Just like the analogy of a driver is given. Just like a driver is going in a car and the boss is sitting behind. Now let's say the boss asks to switch on the AC, boss asks to switch on music. So boss won't say, oh, you switched on the AC, now you wear the sweater. You can't enjoy this AC. Automatically the driver will receive the cool breeze from the AC. The driver will hear the music if it's switched on. Similar is our case. If we serve the Lord, automatically our senses will be satisfied, automatically we'll feel blissful. And that is the power of this Krishna consciousness, that is the power of chanting the names of the Lord or celebrating all these festivals, reading the Bhagavad Gita. And all these things we understand, we are able to describe or very well understand these things through the Bhagavad Gita, through reading the explanations given by Srila Prabhupada. And as we discussed, like the devotee of the Lord is the one who is actually fearless. We see this in the life of our own founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, who at the age of 70, when people generally retire from household on general life, from work, he traveled to the US. He traveled to the US with 2 heart attacks. He yet traveled with no connection and he started this movement. This ISKCON movement, he had just 40 rupees in his pocket. And he traveled via ship to the west. He started this movement with nothing on his own. Because he had taken full shelter of the Lord. And that is the reason he was completely fearless. He was able to start such a big movement. So that's why on this auspicious day, we should take a vow. We should say that whatever the Lord has done so much for us, and we should always try to serve the Lord by inviting auspiciousness, by reading Gita, by reading all the scriptures, by celebrating all the festivals, and most importantly by chanting the names of the Lord. And if we do that, we'll see automatically we'll be satisfied in all spheres of life. Automatically we'll be fearless, which people are running after. So many people in trouble, they run after how to become fearless, how to get that motivation. But the actual motivation, the actual fearlessness can only come when one takes shelter of the Lord, when one actually serves the Lord. Hare Krishna. So now I think we can chant, we can close our eyes, we'll chant for 5 minutes and then we can have some questions or something. So everyone can close his eyes. And just repeat this mantra after me and then we'll sing in chorus. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So now we'll all say the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in chorus and we'll try to hear the mantra. Our only focus for the next 5 minutes is to hear. We'll forget about all the other things going on in the mind. And our focus will be just to chant the names of the Lord and hear the names of the Lord. On this auspicious day, we can invite all auspiciousness in our homes, in our hearts by chanting the names. So now we'll all say the mantra in chorus. You can repeat, means you can say with me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare. So we can gently slow down. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. So now for the last 3 times, we'll chant all together. So our mind must have taken us here and there to different things going on in the mind. So now for the last 3 times on this auspicious day, we'll try to focus on the Maha Mantra, putting all our effort just to focus on the syllables of the mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. So we can keep our eyes closed. And now we can just offer prayers for all our near and dear ones, for all our family members, for all our relatives, for all auspiciousness, so that all auspiciousness enters their life on this auspicious day, and everyone gets blessed with good health, prosperity, and also gets connected to the Lord, starts some spiritual practice like the chanting of the holy name. So now with this prayer, we'll chant 3 times in the mind without opening our lips. Okay. Can all open our eyes? So anyone has any questions? So we'll just discuss in brief the significance of this day. So Diwali is the day when Lord Ram, along with Sita, Hanuman, and Lakshman, they entered Ayodhya after 14 years in exile. And they, after winning over Lanka, killing Ravan, they all entered Ayodhya. So this signifies the victory of evil, victory of goodness over evil. And this is a very auspicious day where this triumph of goodness over evil is celebrated. And a similar pastime also happened in the Dwapar Yuga, where Krishna killed the demon Narkasur and saved 16,000 girls that were held captive. So that's why he married, and later he married those 16,000 wives. So these are the 2 auspicious things that happened on this day. So we can just pray to Lord Ram, we can just pray to Lord Krishna, so that all auspiciousness is created in our hearts, and that all prosperity comes in our life. So with this short prayer, I would like to end here. And now we'll have Damodar Ashtakam and lamp offering. Hare Krishna. We can all face that side.